Enable power management. Hello, chat. I'm going to let whoever actually shows up, but I'm still setting things up. This has been quite the production to get actually functioning. So excuse me while I am not quite ready yet. I'll have to go into a whole spiel about what I actually had to do. Oh man. Oh wait, I can go to studio mode. I forgot. Oh, it doesn't work like that. I'm on. Yep, I'm on 3. I'm on 3. We might have to do without music. I'm not entirely sure. Yes, Google, I know I'm streaming. Isn't it fascinating? I should probably stop watching myself, just so I can save some bandwidth. I don't know if that needs to be deleted. Oh, right, I'm going to the main script. Yes, ignore all of my H's in chat. That was a, that was a different thing. Yeah, chat, you should be able to hear the music. Is it loud? It's probably loud. I mean, it's at -10. It's loud for me, though. Let's just turn it down. I can't turn it down anymore in the thing. I can turn down my actual audio, though. There we go. Yeah, we're gonna have to mess with how it actually works once we transition over there. But that's fine. It's fine. It's fine for now. Yeah. Alright. So yeah, it's fine for now. Oh, it does. I do look a little bit smoother than usual. Is that good? I think that's pretty good. But anyway. I don't think anyone's here yet, but pinned message is going to be there. And I guess for the sake of the VOD, yeah, this is a recording session. This is a new thing. I am, in case you don't know, for some reason, hold on, chair, shut up. In case you don't know, and for some reason just found me via Twitch or the other things I've been doing relating to Twitch, I actually am a video essayer, or at least I tried to be, and I had one major hit and then several flops. So I'm recording another flop. Saying something about every game I played in 2023 was one of my favorite videos I ever made. I liked it quite a bit. It was just nice to actually have a collection of all my little thoughts. So I'm doing it again with everything I played in 2024. I spent a lot of time actually taking notes about all the games I played and doing like voice logs and then eventually writing them down. Although, boy, did I have some writer's block this time. At least for the last couple. I mean, I was putting off the top 10 for months. But some of these came easier, some of them didn't. But anyway, this stream is the animation portion of that video that's going up on that channel. I did most of my animation with this rig was pre-rendered previously, but now I can do it live, and that's a really new thing to me. So this is my proof of concept, I guess you could call it, to see if the live model of recording will actually work well for that video, and then who knows, maybe I do more scripted streams. It's unfortunate. I mean, I don't know, I didn't really want to put anything out on the, should I put something out on the community tab? I don't know, but yeah, this is all prerequisite, not really, it's all leading up to posting on the main channel. So I guess before we get into the stream, and well, I mean, who knows, some people might show up. I'm a day late and an hour short for this stream, though. It's supposed to be a, hold on, I'm realizing that this is wrong. Whatever. Sorry, I was adjusting something. So people are still scrolling in. But I have been basically trying to get all the kinks worked out of the stream so that I can do a real official launch on the YouTube channel that I have the most followers on. People from that channel who watch that stuff didn't really follow me on socials. They didn't really follow me on my Patreon. And so obviously they didn't follow me on my Twitch when I only talked about my Twitch on those things. So my big trial is putting out a video that I recorded on Twitch, that I recorded live and edited and put up on that main channel. So long story short, everything I've been doing has been kind of a soft launch. I have just been getting ready to try and get most of the audience that I already have to watch Twitch. I don't know. I don't have my hopes too high. I did want to make this video anyway, so I don't know. My other 2023 video didn't even break 1,000 views, so I don't have that high of hopes. I might also try... Oh, is that light? Oh, that doesn't matter. That's just a picture. It's just a picture. I'm like, that light's not supposed to be there in the background. It's just a picture. You'll see in a second. I've changed things. I am going to do the Say Something About 2024 video, and I might try and do a video about just streaming in general. So let's give that a shot. Let's give 10 minutes to me to ramble about what I think that video is going to be, because I think that video is just going to be me talking about streaming. And then I'm going to have to edit it all together and make it sound coherent. So let's give that a shot. And this is not a good precursor for the rest of the video. I'm actually really excited about the rest of this stream because it is scripted, and I think I do all right with my writing. I like my writing for the most part, and I think I do pretty good reading my writing, despite not doing a good job reading video game stuff, as a common joke on my channel. But I think this will go pretty well. I don't know. There's not really a lot of scripted stuff on Twitch. That's not the point. So just to have the whole scripted process or recording process of a scripted thing on Twitch, I don't know. Maybe it'll be interesting. I think once I do this and then maybe come back and do another scripted thing in the future, I think it'll be a really exciting thing. Because, you know, I'm not going to ignore chat. That's not the point. It's just that chat will then be witnessing a live performance of something that is not just a stream of consciousness. Scream, get it, stream, get it, stream, get it, stream. But anyway, all that to say, let's try a stream of consciousness of streaming. So I never totally got streaming, at least not to the point where other people did. I never got streaming, at least not to the extent that other people did. I know a lot of people who would just spend a majority of their time watching streams, and for the longest time I never really got it. And there wasn't a really big moment for me. It was really gradual. I started watching more streams and just having it on as like side content, and that was fine. It was just kind of a messy stream of consciousness kind of thing. Stream of consciousness, am I going to keep saying that? Probably. But it was just nice to have another presence in the room. And, you know, as a viewer, that was fine. And some people, that's all they need. That's all they want, is they just want another voice in the room. The fact that it's live kind of doesn't really seem to matter to a lot of people, in my humble opinion. I think a lot of people would be just as satisfied watching video playback or VODs, and they do, which is why VOD channels are so popular. However, I didn't really get into watching streams until a lot of people did in the quarantine. I was on Twitch pretty much every day of the quarantine for the first month and a half or so, and the thing that really brought it to life for me was the interactivity. Not to shout out to the lurkers, or not to pull out the lurkers, but I really didn't get how interesting streams could be until I was invested in actually talking in them. Talking in chat and talking to other chat members. That was the real fun of it, was the community aspect of it. Not even surrounding the streamer themselves, just being able to talk and have a conversation within chat. That was something that was so cool and that I've never really experienced, because despite being on the internet for a really long time, I had a pretty bad time interacting with people on it. I just wasn't good at it. I wasn't really good at projecting my thoughts in a way that allowed people to give their own feedback on it. So the immediacy of something like a chat was new to me. And that's what got me into watching some more streams. And none of that really accounted for the streamer. So when I found out that there were streamers who kind of didn't like their chat, that was an entirely different level. I feel like if you are going to be a streamer, the thing to do is to be interacting with your chat. Just have something for them to do, something to latch onto. Not every chat is going to be self-sustaining, very few are. There's a lot of layers to what makes a chat function, and the streamer is kind of the ringleader of it all. So, it's a big job, at least if you have the people there. What was I going to say? Let's take a drink of water. Slurp. But yeah, the role of the streamer seemed kind of, what's the word, intimidating, I guess. Just because maintaining a chat is a big job, and then playing a game is not a big job. But playing a game for a chat is an entirely different thing. You have backseating, you have, I don't know, talking while playing the game. How much do you let the game to speak for itself? You do want the game to have its own experience, more or less. You want to be able to show people the game you're playing. But I don't know. It always came off as such a hard thing, especially when I watched some streamers, Carl Sagan 42, have such a hard time with their chat and the parasocial aspects of their chat. It was really intimidating. So I never really thought I would get into streaming. I mean, I never thought I would get into content creation in general, but streaming specifically always felt like too much for me. It felt like there's no way that I can be that entertaining, that witty, and that focused on what chat is doing all at the same time. But so that's kind of the reason I stayed away from it for so long, or at least put it in the back of my mind. Not even stayed away from it. I wasn't avoiding streaming. No one was asking for this. It was just something I never thought I would get into. So, but then I started doing more content, and then I started making video essays, and then I didn't have anything to do. I don't know. Video essays only took me so far, and it was really nice when I had an idea that I wanted to get out into the world. Video essays let me do that, and I really liked the time I spent making video essays. I'll still make them, for sure. But they didn't provide me with everything. What I really wanted that they couldn't provide is, despite having a lot of people watch, I didn't really have a community. No one talked about, I mean, this sounds really selfish, but no one talked about my videos outside of the videos themselves. It wasn't really brought up a ton. I didn't get a lot of traction on my socials or whatnot. People didn't really want to talk to me. When they interacted, they pretty much just interacted with the videos. And, you know, that's totally fine. But I kind of wanted a community aspect to it, so... And what's more community-driven than streaming? Because you kind of need the people to be there for the stream to be worthwhile, otherwise it might as well be pre-recorded. So, by the beginning of 2025, really late 2024, I realized that I think the next thing I should do is set up a stream. The problem is that took like an extra 4 months than I thought it would. And that's a bit of a problem when you are expected to be putting out more and more to maintain the viewership that you already had. So here we are, basically an entire year from when anything I did on YouTube was relevant, and I am telling people I'm done with YouTube, as if they didn't already expect that to begin with. I mean, I'm not done with YouTube, I'm just doing different things. Video essays just aren't exactly what I can spend all my time on anymore. I don't have these ideas that I really need to get out there. Now I just kind of want to be out there with people, talking about stuff, playing games, sharing experiences, and who knows what else. I mean, I clearly have some ideas. It's not as if everything you're seeing was not an idea I had. This was all very much part of it. It was something I wanted to do, but video essays weren't the way I wanted to go about it. I wanted to see how live I could get. So, I don't know. That's my 10 minutes of ranting. We'll see how far that goes. But long story short, I did eventually make it. Or long story short, I did eventually hit that live button. And you know what? It went pretty well. The one thing I'm really missing is the community. Starting from zero on Twitch is hard. And I am totally willing to do that. But it also feels unfair to just totally leave out everyone who came to my channel in the first place. If you are ever interested in the stuff I did, or the things I've said on this channel, just know that it all came from me. And for right now, I'm on Twitch, saying things live. Stupider things, mind you, but I'm still saying them. So if you want to see me a little bit more, try checking out twitch.tv/RyeRoyal, and that's not all, because aside from just the larger live community aspect of it, I also just wanted things I could work on and actually produce more quickly, and that comes in the form of stream highlights. I love doing stream highlights. I did a lot of stream highlights for Carl Sagan 42 and wanted to do that on my own. So now that I am streaming myself, I have streams for which to highlight. And that is over on youtube.com/@RyeRoyal. That's actually the new RyeRoyal. This channel will now be youtube.com/@RyeRoyal Productions, or Prod. Just because it'll be more produced content. RyeRoyal will be more highlighted content, and the Rye Fields will be the VODs. The full thing, in case you just want to watch any old stream I did, including chat playback. So, that's my pitch. That's the plan. And right now, we are doing something. Or we are doing something. Of course we're doing something. Still don't think there's anyone here yet, but that's alright. It's a recording. We are finally about to say something for every game I played in 2024. And now we have to address the live chat and the pinned message that's still there. This is a scripted recording session. The focus is the vocals and the mocap, which means that the gameplay is going to be kind of lacking. I will provide some. We'll switch to that in a second, and the chat will be there too. But yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But not only will it be mostly for the motion capture, but also because I don't know what form I want the motion capture in yet. It's gonna be a blue screen, so it's gonna be even a little less appealing than you initially thought, because we are going full blue screen. So yeah, this is what you're gonna have to look forward to with the live, or with the mocap. Unfortunate today, but I think it'll all come together pretty well in production, or post-production. Feel free to chat, though. The way this is going to work is I have a big, long script here. I am going to read a section of the script, and we are going to treat it as if I am going for the final recording. I'm not re-recording this. I can't match, for the life of me, I cannot match a different production or a different vocal track to any motion capture or anything. It has to be a one-take wonder kind of thing. I can edit it so I can say a sentence or two and just go back and edit it, but I can't add in new vocals to whatever motion capture. It has to be the actual thing. So, the way this works is I will be reading this script, and if I mess up, I will have to go back and read the same thing again. I know, shocking. Hold on, let me take a drink. However, I've done a lot of practice with this. This isn't the first script I've written or read, so I think I'll do pretty well. But feel free to yell at me if I flub something or if I'm not moving enough. I know that sounds weird, but it would be really nice if you helped me out with that. And especially for the audio, I have my vocals on a separate audio track, so I'm not too worried about how the final recording will turn out. But if you can't hear me over the game, or the game and the music are getting too intermixed, just let me know and I can cut something. In fact, I may just end up turning off the music for safety. We'll get to that. But I think that's it for right now. Also, it's going to feel a little bit weird because I'm going to have to do plugs over again. I'm going to have to say things that are like redundant or obvious to people who are in chat, and you'll see how it works. Also, I'm going to be taking a little break in between each entry to talk to you guys. If I want to ramble about other things, if you want to add any thoughts, I mean, who knows? If they're really good and coherent, I might add them to the actual video, but, you know, feel free to interject anytime you want, and we can address them in between sections, is what I'm saying, is what I'm trying to do here. Slurp. But without further ado, I think we are going to stop the music. I just don't see how that won't mess everything up. We are going to cut to a black screen, and this black portion of the screen is going to be where the gameplay is. We're also going to change the audio, or we're going to go to the properties and just disable the audio capture. Go there. You know what? You can be on track 1 for right now. I will be on track 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, that's fine. Okay. But yeah, chat will be here in this video, or is in this what is that? What is that? Oh, the background. The set background was there. That's fine. Sorry, I obviously haven't done anything like this this layout before. But all right, shall we get started? We will start with the intro. This is, I mean, it's the intro, you'll see. What pose should I enter with? Something like this? Or should I just go right into it? 2024 was a terrible year for games. Not because the games were bad, of course. I played more good games in 2024 than in many past years. No, 2024 was a bad year for games because it was a bad year for the people that make games. Worse than 22... That's an option. Let's go in for something a little bit more subtle and also try and finish reading the sentence. 2024 was a terrible year for games. Not because the games were bad, of course. I played more good games in 2024 than in many past years. No, 2024 was a bad year for games because it was bad for the people that make games. Worse than 2022 and 2023 before May even rolled around. It was awful, and my heart breaks for the people and the studios that constantly give my favorite medium life. I wish I had something more insightful to say, or a hopeful message for the future, but it's not as though we can't pretend we aren't halfway into 2025, with a lot of terrible things continuing to happen. All I can do is wish them the best and talk about how these games impacted me and record how I think they'll be remembered as we go on. Alright, I'm going to give that whole thing one more shot. Get this out of my way a little bit. 2024 was a terrible year for games, not because the games were bad, of course. I played more good games in 2024 than in many past years. No, 2024 was a bad year for games because it was a bad year for the people that make games. Worse than 2022 and 2023 before May even rolled around. It was awful, and my heart breaks for the people and those studios that constantly give my favorite medium life. I wish I had something more impactful to say, or a hopeful message for the future, but it's not as though we can pretend we aren't halfway into 2025 with a lot of terrible things continuing to happen. All I can do is wish them the best and talk about how these games impacted me, and record how I think they'll be remembered as we go on. I'm going to actually do that last line. I'm also going to stop addressing the chat. That isn't there. So much, at least. All I can do is wish them the best, talk about how these games impacted me, and record how I think they'll be remembered as we go on. You also probably noticed a new look. As much as I hate to put the plug this early, there has been a bit of a change here on this channel. This is now Rye Royal Productions, where all of my scripted stuff will continue to be. However, I recorded this live on twitch.tv/RyeRoyal. If you want proof, the full recordings are over at The Rye Fields on YouTube. And some more edits... Let's go back. If you want proof, the full recordings are over at The Rye Fields on YouTube, and some more edited stuff is over at Rye Royal. It's been a great experience for me, and I would love it if you joined us. With all that out of the way, It's been a great experience for me, and I would love it if you joined us. With all that out of the way, we have a lot to cover, so I'm Rye Royal, and this is me saying something about every game I played in 2024. And that's how a whole cut is going to go. I know it's a little awkward. We're going to have audio here in a second for the gameplay. Slurp. Okay. So now, I'm going to spoil it for you, chat. We have 31 games to get through today. I'm not doing this again tomorrow. I have things to do tomorrow. They're not long entries. It's saying something. That's kind of the gimmick. Some of these could literally be a sentence. Some of them are like a page. So, here's what we're going to do. We have gameplay. Here's your gameplay. This is mostly just for you. It's a visual aid, and is there even audio? We're going to skip ahead to here. Oh, is it going through my... I get into a fight here. Sorry, I'm just messing with audio stuff now. Again. Oh, you know what? It's because my... No, it's not because my stuff is so low. Oh, no, it's just really quiet. There you go, chat. It's just really quiet. So we're going to have to probably deal with the audio every single time. But yeah, let's go all the way back to the very beginning here. Sail forth. So, spoilies. But anyway. First, and technically last, sail forth at 31. An honorable mention from 2023, mostly because I was shocked by how invested I got in this game. It's pretty bare bones. You sail ships, customize your fleet and weapons, and take missions to better customize your fleet and weapons. It is pretty simple, but I got nearly 20 hours out of this game, and I don't know where that time went. I think the trick of it is that there is very little that doesn't flow back into the main mechanics. It's really easy to just go from one objective to another without really seeing the seams. The fights are engaging and almost always rewarding because looting is better than buying most of the time. The major complaint I have is that there are some procedural generations to the islands and world map. It doesn't actually take away from the experience, but it's just not necessary. The game is plenty long and there's a good amount of bespoke content. The procedural elements just feel so inconsequential. I think one hand... Cut. Let's go back to the whole paragraph. The major complaint I have is that there's some procedural generations to the islands and the world map. It doesn't actually take away from the experience, but it's not necessary. The game is plenty long, and there's a good amount of bespoke content here. The procedural elements just feel so inconsequential. I think one handcrafted map with a little more compact... Okay. I think one handcrafted map that was a little more compact could have made this a much stronger experience. There is more than enough here without it. There are challenges, combat trials, boss fights. Let's just do that whole sentence again. The major complaint I have is that there are some procedural generations to the islands and world map. It doesn't actually take away from the experience, but it's just not necessary. The game is plenty long, and there is a good amount of bespoke content without it. The procedural elements just feel so inconsequential. I think one handcrafted map that was a little more compact could have a... I think one handcrafted map that was a little more compact could have made this a much stronger overall experience. There is more than enough here without it. There are challenges, combat trials, and even boss fights. I enjoyed my time plenty, and... I forgot what I was going to say, kind of. I enjoyed my time plenty, and I didn't even get the hang of sailing, which is true. On the screen here, you can actually see, this is obviously not scripted anymore, there's like a direction and a like gauge, and that is to help you try and catch the wind. I just never got the hang of that, except with like the main skiff. Like all of my bigger ships were slow as heck, and I could not figure it out, but even the AI could do it better than me. I don't know. It's a combination of I don't think I got the wind mechanics, and the skiff that I started with is just actually faster because that's the benefit of a smaller ship. So it worked out. I actually liked my playstyle. I would zoom around these bigger combat arenas with my little ship, get my pot shots in with the longer range stuff, and then switch to my fleet of ships that would just wreck stuff. So that was fun. So not really a complaint. But anyway, that was Sail Forth at 34. What happened here? Oh, that's actually happening in the game. No, don't minimize. All right, garage sale. Okay. All right, here we are. Garage at 30. This isn't, yeah. At 30 is Garage Sale. All right, this is about as indie as you can get. Garage Sale is from a 5-person team whom I met at Midwest Gaming Classic back in April of 2024. It's obviously a small project, but this is every game I played. Let's start that over. The inflection was wrong. All right, this is about as indie as you can get. Garage Sale is from a 5-person team whom I personally met at Midwest Gaming Classic back in April of 2024. It's obviously a small project, but this is every game I played. The pixel art is the thing to come for, in my opinion, with the cozy tone coming in close second. It's a stroll around a small town festival on a nice summer day. I'll be brutal and say there isn't much more to it than that, but kudos to the team for a shipped work, and I hope that they each set off for bigger projects in the future. Okay, so one problem with this script so far is my first 4 entries are really, really dang small, and then it'll get a bit bigger. But yeah, my first 4 entries are literally saying something. It's a sentence, but we're in the 30s here. My last video had 25, so we do have to get through this. But yeah, this is Garage Sale. It was cute. It's kind of just a fetch quest simulator, but it's cozy, all right? I'll give it that. And it was made by literally 5 people. Just getting the flagging correct and all this pixel art, it's an accomplishment. The music is really nice. I don't want to come off like I'm bagging a bunch of developers, especially after the nice thing I said in the beginning. But, it is what it is. Let us move on. This is just a trailer, so we're going to have to go kind of quick. It's a 30-second trailer. Yeah, it's Dadish 3D. 29, Dadish 3D. You're Radish, you're a dad, it's in 3D, what else is there to say? I mean this with all due respect when I say, this is brain rot content. Just enough to engage my fingers in lieu of squall. I mean this with all due respect when I say, this is brain rot content. Just enough to engage my fingers in lieu of scrolling Twitter while watching something on TV. It's fine. I'm going to do that whole sentence again. I know the video has already moved on to Europa, but you're a radish, you're a dad, it's in 3D, what else is there to say? I mean this with all due respect when I say, this is brain rot content. Just enough to engage my fingers in lieu of scrolling Twitter while watching something on TV. It's fine. Okay. Sorry about the video. There's like 2 more things on here that I just have trailers for. I did not realize that one was literally 30 seconds. Literally 30 seconds for a 45-second entry on my list. They will not be all like that. This one is still pretty damn short, though. All right, 28, Europa. I'm going to skip to the actual gameplay. Here is some actual gameplay. Audio, let's go down to like negative 17 for audio. And actually lower the volume here to like 50. Also, I believe, is this Switch footage? It might not be. Is it? No, it's not. Regardless. Alright. Another brutal one. 28, Europa. Europa is just fine. There isn't much of a better way of putting it. I need to not paraphrase my own writing. That's a bad thing to do. Europa is just fine. There isn't a much better way of putting it. It's a simple linear platformer that wears its dozen or so inspiration on its sleeve. I'm not going to do it the disservice of dissecting it to show you where each thing came from, but I still think it's important to mention because I don't know what it's trying to bring to the table of its own. The story isn't fleshed out enough to be anything special, and the gameplay isn't interesting enough to stand alone. The presentation clearly has its influences, but it's still my favorite part of the experience, so... I particularly like the last area of the game being present in every level. Let me read that again. I particularly like that the last area of the game being present in every level, and much of the fauna in the areas being hybrids of animal and sleeker mechanical designs. It needed a more solid direction or a new idea of its own to get me really interested. Instead, it just feels like a lot of interpretation of a lot of other works mashed together. Let me read that again. It needed a lot more solid direction or a new idea of its own to get me really interested. Instead, it just feels like an interpretation of a lot of other works mashed together, and that could only ever make it just fine. Slurp. But yeah, it is very basic. Alright, let's scroll up. Oh, this one's sad. I did record this one, right? Yes, I did. Pacific Drive, there it is. What a tragic game. Alright. 27, Pacific Drive. This game makes me angry, furious even, and that is in no small part due to the fact that there is so much that I love about it. The vibe is perfect. You drive through an SV... Hold on, just live editing my script here, no big deal. You drive through an SCP-infested Gravity Falls-like area in a Ghostbusters-ass car that you can customize and up... Let's just start all over. This game makes me... This game makes me angry, furious even, and that is in no small part due to the fact that there is so much about it that I love. The vibe is perfect. You drive through an SCP-infested Gravity Falls-like area in a Ghostbusters-ass car that you can customize and upgrade. That premise is like 3 degrees off of my dream game, and there is so much charm here. It is easy to fall in love with this game. It is easy to fall in love with what this game is trying to do, just by walking around the home base and fixing your car. The tools you use, the way you lovingly labor over this car, feels great. And I really did feel a connection to the car. It's not an insignificant portion of this game. Going back. The tools you use, the way you have to lovingly labor over this car, feels great. I really did feel a connection to this car. A not insignificant portion of this game is just making it function the way you want it to, and the systems involved in making it feel like an actual work. In case you didn't notice by watching any of my oldest hand. What's the matter? What do you mean? Wake up. Wake up, sleepyhead. Well, now I gotta redo this whole take because I wasn't... What do you mean? What do you mean? Okay, I don't know what that was about. Well, let's just start over with... Sorry, my hand fell asleep, so I guess I have to redo that. 27, Pacific Drive. This game makes me angry, furious even, and that is in no small part due to the fact that there is so much about it that I love. The vibe is perfect. You drive through an SCP-infested Gravity Falls-like area in a Ghostbusters-ass car that you can customize and upgrade. That premise is like 3 degrees off from my dream game, and there is so much charm here. It is easy to fall in love with what this game is trying to do just by walking around your home base fixing your car. The tools you use, the way you have to lovingly labor over this car, feels great. I really did feel a connection to this car. A not insignificant portion of this game is just making it function the way you want it to, and the system involved... I really did feel a connection to this car. A not insignificant portion of this game is just making it function like you want it to, and the systems involved in making that feel like actual work is incredible. If only I didn't have to play the rest of the dang game, man. For one, I don't like how you have to navigate this world. You travel between static zones via randomized little routes. I said route zones, which is technically accurate, but I don't like how I said that. A few routes will get you to a bigger static zone. Each zone is populated with stuff to collect and maintain your car, and various anomalies and hazards you need to avoid. I said "and" a lot there. Each zone is populated with stuff to collect and... Each zone is populated with stuff to collect to... Each zone is populated with stuff to collect to upgrade and maintain your car. Various anomalies and hazards you need to avoid, and. Each zone is populated with stuff to upgrade and maintain your car, as well as various anomalies and hazards you need to avoid. I hate to be this guy because it's not really a viable suggestion as much as a completely different game, but boy, I wish this was just an open world. This is a game that makes traversal itself the focus. It's a game that makes traversal itself the focus, so if there was a game that could have gotten away with an open world shift, it was this one. But honestly, that's just a nitpick. Let's talk about why I gave up on this game. I really don't understand how to approach the structure of this game. It's a survival horror at the end of the day. There is a story that lets you progress, but you can spend a near infinite amount of time in side questing and upgrading before tackling that story. I have to scroll down my script. The problem is, I can't imagine just going from story mission to story mission. You'd just get too worn down and you wouldn't be able to upgrade your car enough. So I opted for a more completionist approach, really taking my time collecting stuff and managing my car's various bars and health, so I was spending various... Drink. Um, the problem is, I just can't imagine going from story mission to story mission. You would just get too worn down, and you wouldn't be able to upgrade your car enough. So I opted for a more completionist approach, really taking my time collecting stuff and managing my car's various bars and health, so I was spending resources to fix it. So there I was on a longer story mission. I had already stripped 3 zones of all useful materials, and my car was doing just fine. But the final zone really wore me down. The hazards and anomalies in this game just never sat right with me. They weren't really scary, and they didn't build tension exactly. They were mostly just... They weren't scary, and they didn't build tension exactly. They were mostly just constantly harassing me. Man, I said just a lot. Let's get rid of this mostly. And let's get rid of this just. Okay. They weren't scary, and they didn't build tension exactly. They were just constantly harassing me. Something you had to deal with. Suddenly, an area with an objective can't be safely navigated, or you just have to drive through some damaging anomaly, or you have to risk a 3 times longer route with no guarantee that something worse won't spawn on your route anyway. Let's say way. Boy, this one I must not have read out loud. I usually proofread these out loud, but this one is messy. Let's just... Suddenly, an area with an objective can't be safely navigated, or you just have to drive through some damaging anomaly Suddenly, an area with an objective can't be safely navigated, or you just have to drive through some damaging anomaly or risk a route long... Sorry, this is a rough sentence, both writing and actually saying it. Suddenly, an area with an objective can't be safely navigated, or you just have to drive through some damaging anomaly, or risk a route 3 times longer with no guarantee that something worse won't spawn on you anyway. This one zone eventually wore my car down to the point where it needed a full rebuild. But that was alright, because I had already planned on that. I played carefully so that I would end the quest right next to the extraction point. Only this time, because of some new story elements, the extraction point was on the complete opposite end of the zone. All my careful looting and planning was pointless. Now I had to cross the entire zone while the game was throwing absolutely everything at me, and predictably, I couldn't make it. Everything I had collected in the past 3 zones was gone, and my car was completely stripped of all the parts I had invested before I started my trip. Not only was it a lot of actual time lost, it would have likely been double just to get my car back to the point where it was when I initially left. The game is not hard, but it is work. Work like putting a car together, and I can only sink so much of my free time before I go do anything else. I actually freed that. I did a little bit of free balling on that last line. I wrote it worse than I said it. Aren't you proud of me, chat? Gulp. Alright. Do I even have a Mario vs. DK trailer? It's gonna be short, isn't it? Okay, good. It's 3 minutes. Oh god, it's loud.
Hey now, that dastardly Donkey Kong
You're talking. You're talking when I'm talking? God damn it. You know what, chat? You're just gonna have to deal with it. Mario vs. 26. Mario vs. DK. Oh my god, I have to mute this. This one has to get muted. Oh my god, you won't shut up. There's like 5 games that I don't have recorded for yet that I had to just get trailers for you guys. I did this for you, and you're not even here. At least I don't think you are. Anyway. 26. Mario vs. DK. Excuse me. For as much as I try to be well-rounded with my approach to games and really dive into the smaller, artsy titles, when it comes to Nintendo, I really am hopeless. I very much have the Nintendo mind virus. They could turn around at any time and ask, hey, do you want to play this game again for full price? And I'm usually on board. That's exactly what happened with Mario vs. DK. Not only is this an old game sold at full price, it's an old game sold at full price that I already own on 3DS. But in a moment of laziness and apathy, I just wanted something familiar and polished to play, so I caved on the remake. In the end, I didn't even really enjoy my time with this game that much, and only made it through about half of the post-game. It's a puzzle platformer, so the levels boil down to light puzzle solving and some execution. The problem is that the puzzles in a majority of these levels is how to execute the platforming, not how to overcome the elements of the puzzle. And because the platforming is built around puzzle solving, that means execution mostly just comes down to patience. There is a lot of waiting for puzzle and platforming elements to line up. And there's no and in the script. There is a lot of waiting for puzzle and platforming elements to line up. I have already solved how the level works. It's not difficult to execute, but there is so much waiting in between steps, it already doesn't feel worth it after the failure. I already have solved how the level works. It's not difficult to execute, but there is so much waiting in between steps, it already doesn't feel worth it after a failure or two. It's not a bad game, I just never should have bought it in the first place. Okay. That is it for Mario vs. DK, and now we should be back on something that I actually have recordings for. Planet Crafter. We are going to skip... Actually, no, we're not going to skip. You're going to get a cutscene here in a second. Isn't that exciting? You can watch a cutscene while I speak. 25. Planet Crafter. The genres I find myself gravitating... That's a pun. The genres I find myself gravitating towards are... Let me sit up again. The genres I find myself gravitating towards the most recently are small open-world games and survival crafting games. There are a few entries for both on this list, and when it comes to survival crafting, there are two particular directions generally taken: exploration or automation. It's all about how you are getting the bulk of your materials. It's all about how you're getting the bulk of your materials. Planet Crafter falls more into the exploration category despite having some light automation elements in the late game. I wanted so badly to love this game because its hook is great. You land on a desolate world and everything you do and build is an effort to fully terraform it. What's more is that it really tries to make that progression feel tangible. You don't just see the oxygen bar fill up on your progress screen, the air becomes more breathable the better you do. The whole world reflects the changes that you make, from the greens growing and the biomes changing to new paths and discoveries across the world opening up. As I said, this is more on the exploration side of the survival crafting spectrum. Most of the resources you need are just lying around the world, and the rarer ones are in harder to find areas. Oh boy, this video is really grainy, huh? You guys liking that? We're not done. So, you spend your time wandering around looking for the resources you need to build the machines that contribute to your terraforming efforts. That was not how you pronounce that word. So, you spend your time wandering around looking for the resources you need to build the machines that contribute to your terraforming efforts. It's a sound loop, but it's also where my problems lie. This game just does not feel balanced right. It's a weird thing to say about an exploration game, but let me explain. The machines are the things ticking up these bars to make the planet more livable, and the values needed are astronomically high. Let me do that again. The machines are the things ticking up these bars to make the planet more livable, but the values needed are astronomically high. So high that passive work just won't cut it after a certain threshold. So you have to actively go out and find materials, all while basically no progress is being made by your machines. Then there is another threshold where your machines will certainly hit the goals you need, and those goals might unlock something so much better, it really isn't worth your time to make your current machines any more effective. It's literally more effective. Let me try and cadence that a little better. Then there is another threshold where your machines will certainly hit the goals you need, and those goals might unlock something so much better, it really isn't worth your time to make your current machines any more effective. It's literally just more efficient to wait. It's a terrible back and forth between exploration wasting your time and building anything other than the next upgrade is a waste of time. If the materials came a bit easier or multiple goals could be effectively reached with non-optimal machines, it would just feel so much better. I know there have been patches and a DLC, but I already gave this game enough of my time, and it should be considered kind that I waited for the vehicle update after 1.0, because I genuinely don't know how it launched. I know there have been patches and a DLC, but I already gave this game enough of my time, and it should be considered kind that I waited for the vehicle update after 1.0, because I genuinely don't know how this game launched without that. It would be so slow otherwise. But yeah, it is really sad. This game is really neat in just that this is the very beginning of this game, and whoops, I didn't mean to close that. And by the time you get farther, this is that same area. That's so cool. There's bugs and water and plants, and you have to put like all of that there. Also, really, is my footage really that grainy? That's sad. Maybe it's just this viewer. Maybe it's just gonna suck for you guys. Maybe I can make it better for the stream, for my video. But oh well. Yeah, it's so close to being really cool, but it just, the pacing is all off, and it took way too long. How long do I have in this game? Oh, I'm not gonna be able to know. Never mind, I don't know, and I don't care that much to check. Alright, let's go on to the next one. Oh no, this is Prince of Persia. Oh, please have a long enough video for this. Only a minute. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he's talking to. Mute him. So yes. 24, Prince of Persia Lost Crown. Search action games are becoming one of those popular genres that results in a good problem. Excuse me. Search action games are becoming one of those popular genres that results in a good problem. Unless you are playing nothing but search action games, there really isn't a reason to be playing a bad one. If you haven't already played the best of what the genre has to offer, then it feels bad to even bother with the mediocre entries. Maybe that's why I felt so betrayed by Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Is it The Lost Crown or is it just Lost Crown? I think it's maybe that's why I felt so betrayed by Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. Now I have both. It was exciting to see a new entry in this beloved franchise emerge with such a winning formula and style. Not only was it a 2D title from a bigger publisher, but it was taking a risk by bringing the franchise to the search action genre. I'm not a big Prince of Persia fan. I've literally never played any of the other games, but I lost my place in the script. But I was totally on board for a new I'm not a big Prince of Persia fan, but I was totally on board for a new 2D title, and kinda got swept up in the hype. However, by the end of my experience, I couldn't help but feel like my expectations are what pushed me to finish at all. The game has a lot of core issues. Oh no, I skipped to the next video. We're just gonna have to keep going back until I finish. No. Yeah. However, by the end of my experience, I couldn't help but feel like my expectations are what pushed me to finish at all. This game has a lot of core issues. It tried to innovate with its combat by adding various combos and finishers, but I found them unnecessary at best and distracting at worst. For one, your grounded combat is pretty basic, and to get longer combos, you are going to be Hold on. It tried to innovate with its combat by adding various combos and finishers, but I found them unnecessary at best and distracting at worst. For one, your grounded combat is fairly basic, and to get longer combos, you are going to want to be launching enemies into the air. However, launching is tricky on some enemies and straight up impossible for the rest, already cutting the usefulness of the combat mechanics in half. Combos are not as useful in group or swarm settings where you are most likely to get hit out of strings or actions. Boy, I just cannot talk, which is a great thing to say when you are recording a damn script. Combos are also not as useful in a group or swarm setting, where you are most likely... Combos are also not as useful in a group or swarm setting, where you are... Bleh. Combos are also just not as useful in a group or swarm setting, where you are more likely to get hit out of strings of actions. Most devastating, though, is that once you discover that nearly all comboable enemies cannot escape a down attack loop, you will have a hard time engaging with the system at all. And that's true. You can just hit down and attack and win most combat encounters, at least with enemies that can be comboed at it anyway. Otherwise, you gotta do different stuff anyway. Hopefully I pulled out that scripted and hopefully I got through that. Anyway, so the moment-to-moment action in the search action is hindered slightly, and the search might fare worse. The one thing I don't want... So the moment-to-moment action in this search action is hindered... So the moment-to-moment action in this search action is hindered slightly, and the search might fare worse. The one thing I don't want to show/discuss are the powers you get, because while some of them are your bread and butter movement upgrades, some are truly unique and highlights of the whole game. How a lot of them feel to use as a part of your kit is amazing. Unfortunately, their integration into the world is less so. There is a sacred balance in all good search action games of how much new abilities can grant you access to. Have a power only give you a couple new avenues of exploration, and it feels like you're wasted your time finding it. Have a power only give you a couple new avenues have a power only give you a few more avenues of exploration, and it feels like you wasted your time finding it. Have it open up too many areas, and you increase the odds that the player will get stuck looking for the needle that will open up the haystack of dead ends. Despite the Lost Crown's powers being interesting, it falls into both of these extremes a few times. Let's start the trailer over again. And for something a bit more subjective, I found that the more intense platforming sections were too much. They were hard, but with the... And for something a bit more subjective, I found that some of the more intense platforming sections were too much. They were hard, but with the stingy checkpointing and one-hit KO design, it ended up feeling more annoying than anything. They were hard, but with the stingy checkpointing and one-hit KO design, it ended up feeling more annoying than anything. Which I'd be fine to leave. Which I'd be fine as just a me problem. Which I'd be fine to leave as just a me problem if it weren't for the other core sin of this game. The rewards are terrible. The things you want for exploring were so rarely the things you'd get. Many of the things you'd want, like health upgrades, new powers, special moves, were all pretty close to the critical path, and the farther away from it you explored, the more difficult it got to traverse and the weaker the reward. The things you want for exploring were so rarely the things you'd get. Many of the things you'd want, like health upgrades, new powers, and special moves, were all pretty close to the critical path, and the farther away from it you explored, the more difficult it got to traverse and the weaker the reward. Upgrade materials that were easily found elsewhere in the early game, and worse yet, pages of poorly developed lore. The weaker the reward. This sentence is weird. Upgrade materials that are easily found elsewhere in the early game, and worse yet, pages of poorly delivered lore. I'm a YouTuber. Everyone knows we are illiterate. I just want to hit things harder. Speaking of illiterate. I'm a YouTuber. Everyone knows we're illiterate. I just want to hit things harder. Now, to give this game its due, for all of its derivative and odd choices, everything good about it seems to coalesce at the bosses. They are cinematic, the designs are great, and all the mechanics fold back in to great effect. Not all of the bosses can be comboed, but the ones that can feel great Not all the bosses can be comboed, but the ones that can feel like a one-on-one fighter that I had to build my character out for. It was great. The powers may not be the best to use for exploration, but the more you get... The powers may not be the best to use for exploration, but the more you get, the deeper the combat gets, until you have to wait... The powers may not be the best for exploration, but the more you get, the deeper the combat gets, until you have a way to weave around every attack, and... Excuse me, sorry. The powers may not be the best to use for exploration, but the more you get, the deeper the combat gets, until you have a way to weave around every attack and interesting new ways to turn the fights in your favor. It's almost worth the price of admission. It's almost worth the price of admission, but it's a steep price. It's not a short game, and you never exactly know what parts are worth engaging with until you've already tried. This might be best for those running low on other entries in the genre. Yeah, in my humble opinion, it just did not work. It was not worth it. And here we are in Tiny Turbo's Turbo Tiny Trip. We can turn the volume back on. No, I don't want Blender. What do you mean? There you go. Was that minimized the whole time for you guys? I hope not. Let's see. 23. Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. Try saying that more times fast. As much as I hate to be a critic that does nothing but compare games to other games, Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip really wants to be a modern Simpsons hit and run. But now I get to stop being that guy because I haven't actually played that game. So now let's talk about this game. It's cute, it's colorful, it's got pretty funny writing, and style for days. Unfortunately, I don't think any of that makes it a very good game. I see what they were going for. A small open-world game where everyone drives bumper cars whose turning radius sucks. You can get out of your vehicle, take quests, and do some 3D platforming exploration. You can get out of your car, take quests, and do some 3D platforming exploration. I'm about to come down pretty hard on that game. Excuse me. I'm about to come down pretty hard on a game that has an overwhelmingly positive rating at the time of writing. Not to say I don't understand how people could like this game. I'm just worried that people are giving it a pass because the presentation is nice and the flaws aren't blatant. I'm about to come down pretty hard on a game that has an overwhelmingly positive rating at the time of writing. Not to say that I don't understand how people could like this game. I'm just worried that people are giving it a pass because the presentation is nice and the flaws aren't blatant. So, it just so happens that I play a lot of these games and found a lot of little things that brought down the experience as a whole for me. And by these games, I mean small open world games. These small open world games tend to live or die by one of two things. Either the movement of your character and the exploration of the world, or the quest structure and the variety of things you actually do in the game. Terry kind of lands mid on both sides of the equation. The car is fine. It's fast, but it's a bumper car. It's not supposed to feel great to handle. And Terry himself is just rather serviceable, save for his glide, which I really don't like the feel of. The quest structure was also kind of strange. It may not be the best, but the car play is the most interesting of your modes of movement, and the only missions that really involve driving are basically fetch quests. You are on foot most of the game, which leads to my bigger problem with this game. For a small open world, it just does not have very satisfying level design. It is easy to mess up platforming and excuse me. It is easy to mess up some platforming and end up miles away from the actual challenge. A frustrating amount of this game can be seen but not reached without an overly long detour, at which point you are better off just finding something closer to do. I'm talking like I'm congested, but I'm not. So I don't know what my deal is. Heck. Excuse me. This is why we're in the art section. This is art you're witnessing. A frustrating amount of this game can be seen but not reached without an overly long detour, at which point you are better off just finding something closer to do. I mean, if you have to put elevators in your exploration-based 3D platformer, I feel as though you messed up somewhere. This whole upper highway loop is terrible due to in no small part This whole upper highway loop is terrible, due in no small part to this single fence. You can ditch your car and jump, but if you want to stay in your much faster car, you have to keep driving to basically the beginning of the loop before you can go elsewhere. I'm sorry, I am going to have to put my fake angry objective YouTuber critic hat on here for a second. It's actually the one I always wear. Remove this fence. It doesn't need to be here. There is already precious little reason to be on this route in the first place. At least let the player use it as a fun little one-way shortcut. There is absolutely no reason not to. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to put on my fake angry objective YouTuber critic hat here for a second. Remove this fence. It doesn't need to be here. There is already precious little reason to be on this route in the first place. At least let the player use it as a fun one-way shortcut. There is absolutely no reason not to. There are not a lot of games that can match the personality of Tiny Terry, but I would caution in thinking that is enough to make a game good, especially when there is so much here that misses the mark. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a real beautiful game. It just, I don't know, feeling is kind of a weak criticism. I really do think that the structure and the mechanics it focuses on are just not that fun. It's just a huge shame. Anyway. This is Children of the Sun. Is there no sound? There's no sound. No sound, huh? That's all right, I suppose. No sound. Oh well. 22. Children of the Sun. Children of the Sun gets the 22. Children of the Sun. Children of the Sun gets the award for Best Gun Use in a Game for 2024. That use is puzzle solving. It also might get the award for Shortest Entry. Do you know Connect the Dots? Then you get the basic premise. Only the dots in this case are the skulls of cultists, and the connecting is done with a magic bullet. It's got the juice that comes with any good sniping encounter, and the level design to make plotting your shots an actual puzzle. It's great, and can be beaten in a single sitting or two. Easily worth your time. And that's all I have to say about it, because, yeah, it really is that simple. It's got a story. Oh yeah, this is a much more interesting game to talk about. Sorry. Oh no. Did I just turn off my headset? No, I didn't. We might try and do this one with... I have sweltering in here, and we are only at 21. This is Chasing the Unseen. This game is weird. All right. 21. Chasing the Unseen. I don't want to sound mean when I say Chasing the Unseen is a 6 out of 10 game. It's just above mediocre, but it's also the exact kind of game I want to see more of. It's a small game by a solo dev over at Strange Shift Studio. It's a small game by a solo dev over at Strange Shift Studio. I want more unique little experiences like this from games, even if they don't amount to do some... I want more little unique experiences like this from games, even if they don't amount to something revolutionary. At its core, Chasing the Unseen is a puzzle platformer. You jump, climb, and glide to reach your goal of several levels. However, these levels are unlike anything I'm used to seeing in a platformer. They are endless eerie voids. I got spooked by the audio. They are endless, eerie voids full of twisting nightmare landscapes that hardly make sense. They look as though they might be artificially generated, but as you play through, you see the true artistry at play because there is a coherent platforming level in here. It doesn't matter how dark and mangled the geometry gets, it's always rather intuitive. It doesn't matter on how dark and mangled the geometry gets, it's always rather intuitive on where your next step should take you. It doesn't matter on how dark and mangled the geometry gets, it's always rather intuitive on where the next step should take you. That is the major draw for the game, just having the intelligent design guide you through these seemingly incomprehensible levels. Itch my face. However, each level also has something special to offer. The first one you'll encounter can I skip to where it actually is? Yeah, look at that thing. There it is. That's the thing I'm about to talk about. However, each level also has something special to offer. The first one you'll encounter is the one that got this game on my radar in the first place. It is this giant mass of writhing tentacles. The first couple levels are all about navigating between massive chunks of land by riding this octopus. Between the music, the skybox, and the surreal nature of the landscape... Oh, I missed an and. Or I added an and. That's no. Between the music, the skybox, the surreal nature of the landscape, and the octopus, it's quite a unique experience. Some levels have a more distinct vibes, and others have more scripted moments, and it's Some levels have a more distinct vibe, and others have more scripted moments. It's an enjoyable time, but it never gets much deeper mechanically than following the path that looks most traversable. So, while it's always cool to look at, it never gets extremely interesting to play. I think I would have been a lot more positive if it didn't seem to lock an entire level behind 100% completion. 100%ing this game is a nightmare, and while it does expose a little more depth to the level design than the main game does, I ran on that sentence way too long. 100%ing this game is a nightmare, and while it does expose a little more depth to the level design than the main game does, it is far too much to the extent I can't find a video of anyone actually making it to the secret level. Lord knows I won't bother. Give it a shot if you want to see what a good game... Excuse me. 100%ing this game is a nightmare, and while it does 100%ing this game is a nightmare, and while it does expose a little more depth to the level design than the main game does, 100%ing this game is a nightmare, and while it does expose a little more depth to the level design than the main game does, it is far too much, to the extent I can't find a video of anyone, to the extent it is far too much, to the extent I can't find a video of anyone actually making it to the secret level. Lord knows I won't bother. Give it a shot if you want to see what good can come from weird 6 out of 10s, but don't bother completing it. And that's true, I stand by that. I'm going to throw up. Don't eat gas station food and then try and record a script in 80-degree weather without your air conditioning on, because your mic will pick it up. Chia, oh, this is another trailer, I think, unfortunately. One of the last ones.
Hi, everyone.
We are going to mute it because you are talking over me. I am the star of this show. Buddy. 20. Chia. I put off writing about Chia for a long time because I didn't do it justice well. I put off writing about Chia for a long time because I didn't exactly do it justice while playing it. It was my second screen game for 2024, and for that, it was great. It's a big open world with lots of meaningful quests and interactions alongside... It's a big open world with lots of... I'm going to start over. I put off writing about Chia for a long time because I didn't exactly do it justice while playing it. It was my second screen game for 2024, and for that, it was great. It's a big open world with lots of meaningful quests and interactions. Alongside climbing, gliding, boating... Alongside climbing, gliding, and boating, you also have this really interesting capture mechanic that lets you hitch a ride with any animal or object, with most offering special movement or puzzle techniques. Flying as a bird was as useful as it sounds, but I got plenty of utility out of rocks just by throwing them and capturing them, letting gravity do the rest. Flying as a bird was as useful as it sounds, but I got plenty of utility out of rocks just by throwing them, capturing them, and letting gravity do the rest. Speaking personally, it was a great game to unwind and checklist my way through. However, I would take that little review with a grain of salt, because I didn't really engage with the game, I think. However, I would take that little review with a grain of salt, because I didn't really engage with the game I think it wishes I did. The lead developers are from New Caledonia and wanted to show players a slice of their home. They went to great lengths to capture the essence of the people and culture. It's clear from every aspect of this game that they have a deep love of this place. And while I want to praise them more for their effort, it would feel fairly empty knowing I was watching YouTube in the background while playing. I'll simply say I enjoyed my time thoroughly, and it deserves any chance you're willing to give it. Yeah, I do feel pretty bad about this one, and if the something wasn't included in the title, I would feel absolutely terrible talking about this game at all. I'm going to take a real quick break. Actually, we'll throw on, what's the next game? Rusty's Retirement? Hell yeah, we're going to throw on Rusty's Retirement while I'm going to blow my nose. You better believe it. Because I actually captured this game. Look at that. That's not that's my desktop you're seeing. Isn't that grand? Rusty's in the bottom there. It's covered by the chat. Isn't that awesome? Anyway, get muted while I... Yep, that's how putting your head on work, wouldn't it? Oh no, what oh, it's just really loose. Oh, it's really, really loose. Close enough. All right, that's much better. I should be able to talk for a lot longer now. Oh, I should have gotten more water, you idiot. Slurp. Hopefully, my fan is not being picked up. But honestly, what are you gonna do if it is? I will do a noise thing. I will do a noise thing. That's a post thing. As if enough of this stream wasn't already a post thing. Alright, but you've been watching it for a while now. Let's move right on to Rusty's retirement. 19. Rusty's retirement. Rusty's retirement is one of the most unique executions of a game I've played. Instead of it running the, oh man, I can really hear the echo from my hallway. We're gonna give this like 1. Sorry, Rusty. Actually, you know what we can do? No, I don't know what we can do. We could go through my top 10 YouTube videos of 2024 because that's supposed to be like a bonus thing. We might do that. Just when my room cools down. Maybe we'll check to see if anyone's actually watching. And maybe we'll just BRB for 10 minutes while I sit here and cool. One viewer, is it me? Yes. It me. Man, I really hear the echo. That's a shame. How much longer do we have? Let us check on the progress. Word count. Oh my god, we've made it through 5,000 words out of 14,000. Not even. It's already 8:30. I'm not gonna make it, am I? We might have to do the top 10 tomorrow, guys. We might just have to. Ugh. Yeah, I really hear that. I really hear that echo. I think it's going out the window. It's going out the hallway. Man. Oh man, look at that though, the robot guy. Hey, they even glitched. That was cool. I'm watching my own stream now. Isn't that pathetic? Yeah, hand, you all right there? No, that's a no. Look at that. I'm not anywhere near there. Yeah, there I am. Nope. Literally right here. Only where I ever need my hand to be. It just does not want to fucking see. Give me like 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. How do you think this stream is going? I think it's hurting my voice a lot. I swear if this goes wrong and I can't use half of this recording anyway, I'm gonna be so mad. Ow. Can you hear my wrists breaking? Err. Err. And that's how you stretch. Make sure to stretch. And stay hydrated. Yeah, we're probably only going to get it to the... We're only going to do 20 entries, guys. I know, pretty pathetic, right? Yeah, we'll do the top 10. We'll do the top 10 tomorrow. I hope. I have to go freaking golfing. Isn't that exciting? Yeah, I know. Oh, whelm. Let's look on Twitter. Do you guys like watching me go on Twitter? 3 notifications. Emma Arts, are you a real person? Yes, but you're following 3,000 people, so I don't really care. What about you? You're following 1,000 people. It doesn't always feel great when people who have like 1,000 followers follow you. Or not 1,000 followers, following 1,000 people. It just doesn't feel great. You know what game I am not including on 2025's list, even though it should be, is Deltarune. Like, what are we going to do if Deltarune isn't the game of the year it comes out? We're all going to be in shambles. Like, it just has to be. It has to stick the landing. I believe it can, but, like, what else could rival it? Like, you can't do that. You can't not be the game of the year and be Deltarune. You know what I mean? It'll probably have taken... Yeah, it'll be at least 10 years. It'll be way more than that. Chapter 5 is coming out in 2026. That's 9 years. He's not going to be able to put out 2 chapters in 2 years. In a year, rather, in 2027. Because it came out in 2017, did it not? I'm almost positive. October 2017. Like, it was a Halloween thing. Pretty sure. But anyway, I played chapter 3 and 4, and I'm still not okay, really. But oh my god, Tenna. I love Tenna so much. He's my favorite. He's my favorite guy. Which is hard, because Queen was already one of my favorite guys. I should put the BRB up so people know I'm not just, this isn't the script. It's me on Twitter, reacting to mostly Deltarune fan art, let's be real. Yeah. Man, that was a funny post. Aren't you guys glad I shared that? Anyway, I've had my AC on for long enough, I suppose. I've rested my voice for long enough, I suppose. Time to close my door and get back to recording, I suppose. But then again, I could just look at Twitter more. I could do that. Alright, never mind. I'm allowed to get off of Twitter. Let me go close my door and make it hot in here again. I can control my AC from my phone. Isn't that neat? It isn't neat, except unless I tell you that also it's not a program thing. I literally have a thing on my AC that pushes a button. And I have a thing, an app that controls the button pusher, not my AC. So when I say I can control my AC via my phone, I can control whether the button is pushed to turn my AC on. And I think that part's funny. All right. Oh, excuse me, that was horribly rude. I'm going to close my door now. Get out of here, HAC. You're no longer welcome in making me cool and comfortable. I have to be hot and miserable and record. Alright. But anyway, remember this game that's actually on the screen right now? It's called Rusty's Retirement, and it was my number 19 game of 2024. Rusty's Retirement is one of the most... Hold on. Rusty's Retirement is one of the most unique executions of a game I've played. Instead of running in the background or taking up a whole... Rusty's Retirement has one of the most unique executions of a game I've played. Instead of running in the background or taking up the whole of your monitor, Rusty's only takes up about a third of your screen and will simply exist as an overlay. Instead of running in the background or taking up the whole of your monitor, Rusty's only takes up about a third of your screen and will simply exist as an overlay. I've never interacted with software like this before, and to have a game run like this, I've never interacted with software like this before, and to have a game run like this and to be as functional at the same time is certainly novel. What's better is it's not just a gimmick, it's matched perfectly to the gameplay. You know what, I think my head is a little off center. Blender, come here. I need you, Blender. This is me looking at my screen, at my script. I think it needs to come up a little bit. That's a little better, I think. I think that's a little better. Do I need to go a little bit to the right? That's left. No. Reading. Yeah, that looks pretty dead center. Okay, back over here, Blender. OBS, did you follow that? Well, what happened? Nothing happened. Everything's fine. I've never interacted with software like this, and to have a game run like this... I said like this too much. I've never interacted with software like this before, and to have a game be this functional at the same time... Sorry, I'm rewriting the sentence in my head because I said this too many times. I've never interacted with software like this before, and to have a game run and be as functional as this at this... I said this so many times in this sentence. I've never interacted with software like this before, and to have a game run like this and be functional at the same time is certainly novel. What's better is it's not just some gimmick, it's matched perfectly to its gameplay. Despite taking aesthetic inspiration from farming sims, Rusty's is deeply rooted in the tradition of idle games. In other words, it's a game that you're not supposed to play actively, like I am in this clip. Lost my place in the script. You do a couple of chores and then put it down to let it progress on its own. It's a genre that's blown up on mobile because it's something you really only want to spend a couple of mins on a time. Mins? I literally said mins out loud just because I wrote it like that in the script as an abbreviation. It's a genre that's blown up on mobile because it's really only something you want to spend a couple of minutes on at a time, but return to feeling as though you've made progress. It's experience that works. It's an... Editing live. I clearly didn't read this one beforehand. Editing live. I love editing live. It's an experience that can work elsewhere, but having it I'm sticking on my tongue because I can't read. It's an experience that can work elsewhere, but having to open PC software just to check on something for a minute is weirdly a big commitment. I think Rusty's solves this problem by making it only an element of your screen, while also making it aesthetically pleasing to open at all times. To have open at all times. I think Rusty's solves this problem by making it only an element of your screen, while also making it aesthetically pleasing to have open at all times. The presentation, concept, and technology are all near in... The presentation, concept, and technology are in all near perfect sync, which is why it pains me to say I think it more or less fails at being a good idle game. Alright, here we go. I'm about to utter the one criticism that I hate the most in the modern gaming landscape. This game isn't long enough. I know, shorter experiences are often worth their weight in especially... Worth their weight isn't an expression that people would understand, right? Like, it's worth their weight in gold. Also, I can't believe no one showed up in chat, so my stupid template messages are gonna be in the chat the whole time. What an idiot. Whatever. I know, shorter experiences are often worth their weight, especially in games when... Shorter experiences are often worth their weight, especially in games. But when it comes to idle gaming, longevity is what makes or breaks the experience. The way Rusty's works as an idler is different than a lot of other idle games. The inflation in the economy of the game isn't what is going to slow you down as much as the automation. You don't do anything directly in this game. The inflation in the economy of the game isn't what is going to slow you down as much as the automation. You don't do anything directly in this game. Rusty does it all. He builds the fields, Rusty does it all. He builds the fields, plants the crops, waters the plants, harvests the products, and brings it to market. That's quite a sentence, but it's cool, and I need to say it again while sitting up properly. You don't do anything directly in this game. Rusty does it all. He builds the fields, plants the crops, waters the plants, harvests the product, and brings it to market. Your interactivity comes down to telling him in exactly what way he should do that, but you are still waiting for him to do it. Of course, there is a progression in this game. You will unlock crops that are more profitable, but that alone won't make this game work. The problem is... You will unlock crops that are more profitable, but that alone won't make this game work. The problem at this game's core is that Rusty alone would take too much time to micromanage to have an effective... The problem at this game's core is that Rusty alone would take too much The problem at this game's core is that Rusty alone would take too much time to micromanage to have an efficient farm. That doesn't make sense. You would have to actively play, but waiting 20 seconds here and there to tell him to do it. The problem at this game's core is that Rusty alone would take too much time to micromanage to have an efficient farm. You would have to actively play by waiting 20 seconds here and there to tell him to do a new thing. The game solves this with automation. The game prog rocks. Anyway, you have to actively... By, not but. This whole thing was screwed up by a by and not a but. Oh no, did I close the game? Is that the end of this video? Yeah, basically. Let's just move it back over here. The problem at this game's core is that Rusty alone would take too much time to micromanage to have an efficient farm. You would have to actively play by waiting 20 seconds here and there to tell him to do a new thing. The game solves this with automation. The game progresses more along your automation line than your actual crop. The game progresses more along your automation line than the actual crop you grow. Getting your farm more and more automated is fun, and there are more crop and aesthetic unlocks along the way, but you are automating yourself out of the game. There is a point where if you just want to be profitable, or you already have your farm looking the way you want, you can effectively just sit back and wait for the game to beat itself. Did you hear my chair there with me trying to lean back with this bit? I guess I'm not going to do that. Hiccup. There is a point where if you just want to be profitable or you already have your farm looking the way you want, you can effectively just sit back and wait for the game to play itself. It lacks any exponential curve that gives idlers dependency on the player after days of playing. As an idler, it fails because you could have a completed farm after a single workday of passive. As an idler, it fails because you could have a completed farm after a single day of passive playing. And I mean that like real-time work. It's so disappointing because it has such a slick presentation and does provide my brain with that little break it needs while working without the long-term. It's so disappointing because it has such a slick presentation and does provide my brain with that little break it needs while working without the risk of long-term distraction like Twitter or YouTube has. I hate simply suggesting to make games longer because do more is such a useless criticism, but this game needs length. Maybe a rebalance would do it, or maybe it only ever needed... Maybe a rebalance would do it, or maybe it was only ever supposed to be wearing the skin of an idle game. But considering how well it works as one, I hope the overlay style of idle game becomes a bigger thing, and I think this game can be thanked for that experience in some way. Yeah, it is quite good, but you can get through the whole of it in just a day. That's the long and short of it. Oh my goodness, Mika and the Witch's Mountain. You are a long entry. Next. We're going to skip to the town, actually. All right. 18. Mika and the Witch's Mountain. Mika and the Witch's Mountain. So you may have some guesses as to what Mika and the Witch's Mountain is trying to do just by looking at it, so let's start with what it accomplishes. This is a 3D platformer that is dressed up as a small open world. It's all in one location. It's all one I forgot to drink water. Slurp. It is 9 p.m. and there is sun out. That is unacceptable. Do better, Earth. When is the solstice? Soon, right? No, the summer hasn't even started. The solstice isn't for like another month. That sucks. Excuse me. Sorry, I just had an itch on my face. This is a 3D platformer that is dressed up as a small open world. It's all one location, but the level design promotes much more thoughtful navigation through pre-made routes than free-form exploration. You straight up can't get to some places until you progress through the story. Luckily, the controls complements the level design well. Despite being a witch on a broom, you can't really fly, only fall with style. That is to say, glide. I know gliders are saturating the 3D platformer genre, but this case is a little different because it still very much feels like you are riding something truly unruly. I know gliders are saturating the 3D platformer genre, but this case is a little different because it still feels very much like you are riding something unruly, yet more powerful than your typical glider. It's still a vehicle. You have direct control. It's still a vehicle you have direct control over. It's not hard by any means, but it's still one of the more unique control screens. Control. Where was I? It's not hard by any means, but it's still one of the most unique control schemes I've ever felt in a 3D platformer. It's not hard by any means, but it's still one of the most unique control schemes I have ever felt for a 3D platforming character. And along with the level design... And along with the level design and controls is the game's structure. You are a delivery witch. You have predetermined deliveries to go on and various side quests and distractions that all guide you very nicely across this island in a way that allows the game to open up at a nice pace. The controls are strange and unique, but the level design is built around them, with the story that will tell you where to go to allow for the most satisfying progression that... The controls are strange and unique. The controls are strange and unique, but the level design is built around them, and the story will tell you where to go to allow for the most satisfying progression that the designers can muster. It works... That was still a weird sentence. Hold on. The controls are strange and unique. The controls are strange and unique. Blech. The controls are strange and unique, but the level design is built around them, and the story will tell you where to go to allow for the most satisfying progression that the story... The controls are strange and unique, but the level design is built around them, and the story will tell you... The controls are strange and unique, but the level design is built around them, and the story will tell you where to go to allow for the most satisfying progression that the designers can muster. It works, and is fine. It works and is a fine little experience, if that sounds fun to you, but I want to talk about the elephant in the room. Here's the part that I can't show you. Let's talk about the 1989 Studio Ghibli movie, Kiki's Delivery Service. Kiki is a young, inexperienced witch who heads out on her own to complete a crucial step of her training by trying to find how her powers can aid the community. But due to the lack of skills and magic... Let's talk about the 1989 Studio Ghibli movie Kiki's Delivery Service. Kiki is a young, inexperienced witch who heads out on her own to complete a crucial step of her training by trying to find how her powers can aid the community. But, due to her lack of skills and magic, takes up delivering bread from a bakery on her broom. There is a lot more in the mix, but at its core, that's the premise. Here's the thing about Kiki. She was never going to learn how to do powerful spells to defeat a foe, or mix an incredible potion to stop a plague, or change any magical way. Here's the thing about Kiki. She was never going to learn how to do powerful spells to defeat a foe, or mix an incredible potion to stop a plague, or change in any magical way, because the most magical thing someone like her can do is grow up. It's a story about the community and the lessons someone can take from it. Oh, actually need a pause. It's a story about the community, and the lessons someone can take from it are the most special things in someone's life, even if it feels pretty average. It makes the mundane beautiful, which is why I think it is something of a bedrock for the whole cozy, wholesome genre tropes we are seeing gaining. It makes the mundane beautiful, which is why I think it is something of a bedrock for the whole cozy, wholesome genre tropes we are seeing gaining more prominence today. How do you put that in a game? I don't know the answer for sure. I'm trying to look at my head without actually looking. How do you put that in a game? I don't know the answer for sure, but I can list several games that seem to How do you put that in a game? I don't know the answer for sure, but I can list several games that seem to relish in the mundane parts of life and can gamify systems to make the act of living pleasant. It's a hard task, and to try and go for the exact flavor Kiki is going for is even harder, because it's doing this all within a coming-of-age... Oh, I hit my mic. It's a hard task, and to go for the exact flavor Kiki is going for is even harder, because it's doing a coming-of... I need to itch my face again. This is how all recording sessions go for all YouTubers, I promise. So, it's just going to be this messy. It's a hard task, and to try and go for the exact flavor Kiki is going for is even harder, because it's doing this all within a coming-of-age story. So, not only is it the mundane present and the It's a hard task, and to try and go for the exact flavor Kiki is going for is even harder because it's all doing this within a coming-of-age story. So not only is the mundane present and glorified, but there is still a noticeable change from beginning to end. If we are going to take the role of Kiki and don't recognize that change or experience it for ourselves, the job hasn't been done. Not that it matters, because Mika's biggest crime is that despite taking a lot of cues from Kiki, it really doesn't even try to engage with the major parts that make it special. Like I said, I think it's a very hard experience to translate, and I don't blame them for taking a well-designed, if safe, route. However, if they knew they couldn't accomplish what Kiki did, why even bother with all the references? Free yourself more. Don't bother with the Kiki-adjacent story and characters. If tighter level design is what you are passionate about, don't worry about the delivery girl framing and drop the open world. Mika is not a bad game, but I almost wish it was. I wish it had gone for all... Mika is not a bad game, but I almost wish it was. I wish it had gone all in on trying to capture that feeling that Kiki first gave me. I feel a disaster that tried would have been more interesting than something that... Mika is not a bad game, but I almost wish it was. I wish it had gone all in on trying to capture that feeling that Kiki first gave me. I feel a disaster that tried would have been more interesting than something like this that played it too safe. Does that make any sense? Oh no! When did you happen? No! Aw, man. Fingles. It's just this one too. Unplug. Oh no, I really unplugged it. Shit. Replug it back in. It's... Enable? Oh no. 5? What do you mean 5? Oh no, man. That's not good at all. Oh man. It's still getting this. It's... Oh no. Oh no. What the hell? Oh no. That sucked. My whole fucking software crashed. That sucked ass. This stream might be over, guys. We're at 2 hours anyway. We are not even halfway done. If I can't get these fingers to immediately connect, then we are donezo. Okay, so those are there. Oh no. Something is wrong with the gloves. No, that's devastating. Nope, nothing. Aw, man. Well, that's exceptionally disappointing. My gloves broke. At least one of my gloves did. I have to troubleshoot that. It's a million degrees. It's 9 o'clock p.m. That's really sad. We are going to have to start at 18. That is not even halfway through. That is just devastating. I should have just recorded yesterday too, because I was still working on the top 10. Welp, folks. I guess I will see you next time. Sorry everything broke.